McLeod County Fair celebrated its 150th anniversary in 2022. In this retrospective piece, we'll be hearing from Fair Board members and fair attendees. To start, let's get a bit of a history lesson on the fair, and who better to give us that than McLeod County's museum director, Brian Haynes. Take it away, Brian.
The first county fair in Hutchinson was held in a tent in 1873. Here, meetings were held and exhibits made for 2 years, after which the annual fair was held in a larger tent in a different location for a year or two. As interest and attendance increased, a location affording more room was sought and was found east of where the Chicago, Milwaukee, and St. Paul Depot later stood. Here, a still larger tent was erected and a racetrack laid out, a temporary fence built on 2 sides, and watchmen employed to guard the unprotected portions of the track. Admission tickets, good for 1 entrance, cost 25 cents. A 50-cent ticket was good for the whole day, and children under 12 were admitted for 10 cents. The exhibits were divided into these classes: fine arts, flowers, pantry stores, etc. Running and trotting races were also held. During the years of rural schools, roughly the first half of the 20th century, a popular feature of the fair was the school display. With consolidation of the schools, those displays gave way to exhibits from the major school districts in the county. Then, in the late 1960s and early 70s, the school exhibit building became the Art Education Building. On January 23rd of 1899, it was voted that President H.H. Pennoyer investigate the building of an additional amphitheater and also a dining hall on the grounds. In 1905, members voted to build a secretary's office at the cost of $150. Sam G. Anderson Jr. was elected president in 1911, and it was suggested that an auto parade be held on the last day of the fair and prizes given for the best decorated cars. H.A. Jennings was awarded a contract for a fine arts building. Receipts of the 1911 fair neared the $5,000 mark, and all officers were re-elected. Directors voted to sign a contract with the Curtis Company for an aeroplane flight at the fair at a cost of $900. In 1924, plans for a new horse and hog barn were submitted at an estimated total cost of $5,000. And in 1925, the board voted to issue $10,000 in bonds to finance a new grounds and building areas. New plans in 1929, including installation of a loudspeaker system by Eben Dennis and a new ticket booth at the entrance of the new road. More buildings were erected on the grounds during the 1930s under the WPA. The old octagonal horticulture building was done away with and replaced by a structure, and a 4-H building was constructed. In 1940, the administration building was constructed by the Andrew Larson Construction Company. The picture of steady growth continued for the fair over the years, well into the 1970s and 80s. A children's barnyard was added, as well as a number of high-action spectator events such as tractor pulls, demolition derbies, and even stunt shows. The 1980s saw a major hurdle to overcome for the fairgrounds when a June tornado ripped through the Hutchinson area and destroyed 5 buildings on the site of the fairgrounds. An officer in the administration building recalled being huddled under his desk during the twister. He recalled the first thing he heard was a tremendous downpour of rain and an awful rumble. He dove under his desk and the room began coming down around him. When he crawled out, the front door was gone and all he could see was blue sky around him. The twister was devastating. More than 25 homes in the area were damaged and a number of people were injured. With the fair not far away, it was in danger of being canceled for the first time ever. A motion was made, however, to repair and replace all buildings and hold the fair as scheduled. As the 80s turned into the 90s, the county fair was in store for a big change. The 3M company began looking for a place to build a new plant. On September 1st, 1991, sale of the fairgrounds to the 3M company were finalized, and the fairgrounds moved to the southwest area of Hutchinson, where it remains today.
25 cents extra for the butter. 1915. McLeod County Fair. Now notice the dress and the sunshades and the old bandstand there. There's the Fearless Loop-de-Loop. I'll tell you more about that later. Quite a crowd there. Look at all those cars. Now there's the merry-go-round with the floppy top on it in case of rain. Look at all the sunshades. And a goodly number of people. It's fair, of course, is still very popular. There is the dirt track, And this is these scenes are taken from, obviously, from the infield. This is the old grandstand, replaced by the present cement one. But this was an old wooden structure, and that's where they viewed all the action. I believe we're going to see some action and some free attractions. Here they are, the free attractions. You'll see some unicyclists there. There's a Chesley Hill in the background. People now call it the Pendergast Hill. My father owned it for years. The original owner were the Chesleys, and their home was burnt by the Indians in 1862 up on that hill. We called it the beauty spot. My mother wanted to build there but never did. Now people have built up there. Unicyclists putting on their little act, and there's a horse coming down the track warming him up for the trotting and pacing races that we'll see more of later. Billy goats and monkeys doing their thing. Another horse coming down the track, and billy goats rolling a barrel. I believe we'll see the fearless loop-de-loop. A very short presentation of that is here. It is right now. Now you'll have to look awfully quick because it gets over in just a minute. There are two cars, man and wife, man in one car, wife in the other. They go shooting down the track, do a loop-de-loop, and one car goes, now watch, here they go, and now it's all over. There's the man and his wife, and they put that on with a big ballyhoo about the original film had a much longer shot of that, but it's been edited evidently. It's kind of too bad because that is worth watching. Now we're back at the tricks on the bicycle.
With history in mind, it's a perfect time to hear some stories and memories of the old 3M site.
I've been on the fair board and connected with the fair since 1947, when I became a 4-H member. And I think the first year, I remember being in front of the grandstand. We did a pageant that we portrayed coming into statehood and stuff like that, I guess, because we had Indian tent camps and we had horses and everything out there. That was my first touch of county fair and being in front of the grandstand. Since then, that has changed. I fair board member. I've been president of the fair board, and I got in at the fair in 1972 after showing pigs and stuff like that all the way through my 4-H years. And 1972, I was chairman of the McLeod County Demolition Derby. Snowmobile Club had it, and I became chairman, and I did that for over 30 years.
The old cattle barn was always nice to be in. I had enough cattle usually that we filled the circle up in that building. That or Doug Tooman's, we would be in there a lot. They'd have one half, I'd have the other half, and we got along fantastic with everybody in there.
The old site was extremely, it had a lot of personality, and it showed the history and the tenacity of the fair over that first 120 years. They built the buildings one at a time for the most part, and funded it one at a time, and did really an excellent job. It had a good feel to it, and it truly was an historic site. The buildings were well maintained, but also very well built, and had a lot of character.
Yeah, the old fairgrounds was a good fairgrounds, and there was a lot of good buildings and a lot of good people. We had a lot of good people on that fair board that were there year after year after year, and that's what got me into the game to start with, is just to watch these people and how progressive they were, and their thinking was, and that was one of the things that I kind of remember from going way back to the old fairgrounds. But you see, I also told you the story that I didn't think about things that were done. I'd always think about what was coming up. And so I kind of purposely forgot a lot of things that I should have never forgot. I should have just remembered them because they were part of my life and part of the structure of the fairgrounds. And
One other little project I took under my wing was when the old fairgrounds was destroyed, the flagpole was taken out of the infield. And I talked to Fair, allow me to have that flagpole. We fixed it, straightened it, and put it back up in the infield of our new fairgrounds. And it's still standing there today. And I always got a little thing. What is the cone on top of the flagpole made of? And nobody can guess what it is, from football to this metal. Well, here's two old headlights from an old car in the 1930s. You weld it together, and that makes the cone up on top of there. So, now you know.
Well, somewhat, yes. We grew up there showing, and I think I showed my first animal when I was barely out of diapers. So we have a lot of good memories. Yeah, we enjoyed that fairgrounds, but this one is much better.
Before we proceed forward, let's enjoy some of the sights and sounds from the 1986 McLeod County Fair. The current fair site was quite the transition, and so many dedicated people helped to make these grounds a reality.
Just think about the year, the 1993 year, our first fair here, and all the hundreds of people that came together. It was an incredibly wet year, and we were laying sod here less than 24 hours after the fair opened. The construction was a challenge because it was so wet. We had to haul in a lot of foreign material just so we could drive trucks around on the site because it was so soft. We were getting inches of rain at a time, and we would several times a week. So just the fact that it happened was truly a miracle, and a miracle that was guided by the hundreds and hundreds of volunteers who worked so hard on this building, less than 24 hours. I remember in here pressure washing the construction debris off the floor, and the fair was going to start in less than 24 hours. Yeah.
Well, it's definitely for the better. We ended up with all the nice new facilities and to be able to rent them out to many other organizations, and I think it works better for other organizations or groups of people to rent these buildings and have stuff in it. I believe the high school uses these buildings a lot, and it's close for them, so everything's on the upside, I think.
I just have to tell you about the pavilion where the beer sales are. That was the old sheep barn down at the old fairgrounds, and when they were going to move that, I thought that was the worst thing they could ever do, but it was the best thing. Well, it is a big change, and you have to go with changes. And we have that exhibition building that we're in now, and it's so nice. And we had plenty of room at the old fairgrounds, but it just wasn't like we have today. It's pretty special, these buildings and what we have here at this fairgrounds. Well, I just think it was the best thing we could have ever done. We were running out of room down there. The buildings were getting old, of course. These are nice, and we've added on. We had many years we used a tent for the extra cattle outside. We don't have that anymore. We added on to the one building, so all the cattle are under roof now. We don't have anything under tents, which it was okay if it didn't rain or storm. Then it got to be an issue.
It's all nostalgia. When we rebuilt the fairgrounds after the tornado, Emma Lake's building was kind of a special place because Emma was a character. She was just a super lady. The story about Emma is she wore bowling shoes to the fairgrounds, to the fair, because they felt good on her feet. Yeah. So that building is kind of a special building. And then 3M did keep that building. Yeah, it's used for some special purposes now, so it's still there.
The big beer garden we got, my brother's boy designed that. So I had a little something to do with that, but not a lot. But a lot of those people were people that I knew through some hookup, and so forth and so on. But he had just designed some things at our farm, and so it was fresh on my mind when he sat down and designed that building, So, and he does that. He lives up in northern Minnesota, and that's his work. And so I'm always kind of proud of him for doing some of those types of things. And he had some tremendous ideas, just probably more so than the average person would have. So you kind of remember some of those spots and things that went on. So yeah, it was fun.
As you maybe don't know, but we had buildings down East Town where the old fairgrounds was, and Minnesota Mining bought our whole fairgrounds and put up a building over here. Every square foot that we had down there, they replaced up here for new fairgrounds. And I think maybe we have the newest I'm not sure, but I'm sure we maybe got the newest fairground in Minnesota.
I was on the building committee, so that I learned all sorts of things. The infrastructure and what's underground, all the wiring, the plumbing, the whole thing. So the fairgrounds as a whole is pretty special. That I have a special place in my heart for all the landscaping and the green areas, just because that's what I love. So.
Well, I think that once we moved to this site, and it had started at the old fairgrounds too, county fairs in general and our county fair also, because of McLeod County and the growth of McLeod County and how many things we have going on in McLeod County that have a non-ag influence. Our fair has evolved probably a little more than many county fairs, which are totally focused on ag. But McLeod County has a pretty rich history in manufacturing. Because of our location west of the Twin Cities, we have probably a little bit more diverse influences at the fair. So it's really a teeny little mini state fair.
You will have the opportunity to purchase 29-cent stamped envelopes and postcards for your cancellation. You will be able to sign up for prizes, receive information about the postal service, and just visit with us. Thanks again for the opportunity to serve our community.
'Thank you, Curtis, and thank you, Vi. And now, to conclude our celebration here tonight, we would like to draw your attention to our 4-H members in the county and Ted Leopold, the McLeod County 4-H Director, as they work their way towards the middle, and they're going to have a countdown and a release.
.4-H has a rich history with county fairs. 4-H Extension educator Darcy Cole was kind enough to talk with us about 4-H and the McLeod County Fair.
My favorite piece of county fair is really watching those 4-Hers and seeing the learning that happens with them throughout the course of the year, because anything that they make essentially tomorrow through county fair start date is something that they could bring into our 4-H building, or an animal that they could have that they work with. So I always find it amazing just to see, first of all, how incredible their projects are. As you can see a few behind me, and how much more talented they are than I am, as well as just seeing all of their livestock projects and watching that hard work that they put into them all spring and summer pay off to what they have here at county fair, and hopefully to state fair for some of those older kids.
My daughter comes for 4-H every year, and we enjoy seeing everybody's entries, and yeah, it's always neat to see entries for the horticulture and other things too, so great learning experience.
Well, for many years my kids exhibited in the 4-H buildings, both at the old location and the new, but some years ago I also was judging.
All of our kids that are exhibiting at fair are part of one of our 9 4-H clubs that are across the county, and those clubs are just a club of kids and their parents that gather once a month and they learn together, right? So they bring projects that they're creating and talk to their group about that. They do a short business meeting that's led by the youth officers in their club, and then they play some games, sing some songs, do some projects together. So that's kind of where most of our kids' interaction with the 4-H program is really at that club level. And then they have the opportunity to get involved in a ton of other county things that we offer. I'd also encourage you that if you have a young person who is kindergarten all the way through that first year after high school graduation, to think about joining our program. There's a lot of things that we do besides just county fair. We also have events throughout the course of the school year. We have after school programming across the county. We have a number of different showcase events that happen outside of fair. So things like performing arts, or we do a fashion show, we have a food show. So there's a wide variety of things. So essentially, if you have a young person and you're looking for something for them to be involved in, 4-H is a good opportunity because it is really youth-led, adult-guided within our program. And no matter what interests they have, there's something for them, and it's a good family activity that all of your kids and all of your family can do together.
Hi, I'm Janet Dolezal from Hutchinson, and I've been superintendent of the open class flowers since the mid-70s, 1970s. And this year now I'll be retiring. I'm going to have 2 new co-superintendents taking over. I feel after about 46 years it's time to step down. It's been a very fun experience, and when I first started it was at the old Fairgrounds, and Grace Stanstead asked me to be superintendent, and at that time the flowers were at the very corner of the building, and we had about 4 or 5 steps like into that corner where they had displayed the exhibits, and because at that time I was the youngest, I had to crawl up these staircase like to put the exhibits on there, and then eventually they moved us into the other parts of the other building, and then we got into the new building where we have a real nice area now to show our exhibits.
Well, I love the flowers. I do help with entering the flowers, so we get a sneak peek, and then being able to see what happens with the judging. And some of the same people have entered flowers for years, and it's really good to see how the kids that have started to exhibit have gained in experience, and really great.
We usually have between 600 to 800 or 900 exhibits during the fair. We have some incidents where we've had some funny experiences. The flowers must be exhibit, intact, and we want them to have like leaves and flowers in good condition. And one time an exhibitor brought a flower, a hollyhock. It fell off, but she taped it onto the stem, thinking that we would not notice that it was not on the stem. But of course, we saw that. So that's something was one of the funniest experiences we've had, of them taping flowers onto their stems of their exhibits and that. We usually have 2 judges. They're certified judges, which they're certified with the Minnesota Horticulture Society. And we always have them judge because we want the best judges to put the ribbons on our exhibits. And also we like to give as many ribbons as possible, as many blue, red, and white, just to encourage people to keep exhibiting. And we feel that this is a great education experience. When people walking by, they're always asking, well, what kind of flower is this? And different questions like that. And so we're able to give them information as how to grow it and plant it, and then also hints on how to get their flowers ready for exhibits. 2 years ago, we started photography in the garden, where people would they could exhibit like kids in the garden landscape, birds or animals in the garden, flower close-up, and then any other garden exhibit. And last year was the 2nd year, and it almost tripled the entries from the very first year. So that's one of our biggest growing interests. You don't really have to grow flowers, but you can still enter then in the division and that.
Grandstand events have always been an exciting element to county fairs. Let's take a look back through the years.
Bill is checking the drivers to make sure that they've got their jackets on, their seat belts on, their helmets are on and buckled, hopefully. Oh, there's a nice hit over there. There's the radiator busted. Hot water flying all over the place. That's why they need those jackets. Don't want to get burned. Got a radiator busted out there.
Well, I remember one time the Demolition Derby cars got a little rambunctious and hit power pole and knocked out power to the whole fairgrounds. So it was kind of interesting there for a while. But
watch this bareback rider ride, and then I'll introduce the rodeo clown. Kenny Pole now on the Weasel horse in the Buffington Bareback Band. All right, gets a little western down here, fans. Let's give this cowboy a little encouragement here as Kelly Cole on a War Road, Minnesota. We're going to have a rocket.
On the line, they're number 35, Andy Skoglund from Mayer. Number 8, Dustin Nick from Stewart. 248, Travis Laney from Howard Lake, sponsored by Laney Electric Company. Number 177, Kyle. Number 230 out there is Tyler Neese from Lake Crystal, sponsored by Sherwood Motors. And number 17, Nate Barber from New London, sponsored by Don's Auto. In the big lead, 177. That's Kyle Chatston.
37 is out. Leon Goldschmidt is out of it. Stalled way down there in the corner. Couldn't get her going. Ran out of time. That's it. Your winner in car number 12, Tim Proyle of Glencoe, Minnesota. 1992 champion at the McLeod County Fair Demolition Derby.
My dad was a member, Curtis Tongan, of the Fair Board, also a past president. I think he was elected to the board in approximately 1964. I would have been 6 years old at the time. And so my lifetime, I have been at the fair every year. My early memories are of putting decorations up down at the old horse barn. We had the Stars and Stripes gauze banners that hung. Always a hassle to put them things up, and if you drove the tacks in too hard, they were hard to get out, and if you didn't put them in soft enough, they fell out. But a lot of memories of that, and most of my memories are in the horse barn. That's where we were showing horses all those years, and for many years did horse racing and chariot racing. I was very fortunate when I was 11 years old to win my first trophy at the McLeod County Fair. I guess it would have been in about 1969. Boy, what an honor to carry home a trophy with that brass pony on it. Just so many memories, and still cherish that day. Also, we raced chariots, and that was always a blast. You know, we'd get friends and stuff to come from miles around, and had a lot of competition, and just really so many fond memories. This year at the fair, in the historical booth, we have a chariot on display that I happened to use in the very last chariot race ever performed at McLeod County Fair. And it was kind of strange when Marion asked me about taking this out, if I could bring one. Well, I had to go in the woods and dig it out. And as I dug it out, I got thinking, I don't believe a horse has been hitched to that little chariot since 1992. So 30 years. And one of the wheels was even stuck tight that I had to pull the bearings off and break out the old shoes that were in there. But just one of those fond memories. And now I've been superintendent of the horse barn since 1990. So have many, many memories of all of the various people going through. And as a superintendent, my goal has always been that we make a fun show for our exhibitors. And it's so fun that through my time at the fair, we're going through multiple generations. Myself, I started as a young kid. Now I've got grandkids participating in the fair.
I just seen the poster on the wall about the 1955 Fords they gave away. I remember seeing them at the fair. I had an uncle that wanted the cars in the 60s. My name was in the drawing at one time, but I was a judge, so I had to back up, but I didn't win. I used to go to all the stage programs, the horse races, the car races, and all the things they had in the grandstand. We had a lot of fun there when I was younger. Now everything's kind of moved, everything's changed with the new. I helped with the tractor pulls for about 18 years until they moved out to the new track here. Then I had to quit because they hit the same night we had our go-kart races over at Cedar Mills, so I had to back out because I was a flag man over there. But that's all right. I enjoyed it. I still do. I love coming to the fair yet. It's getting a little harder. I have to drive a cart now. I can't walk very good. So other than that, it's still nice to come out here, see a lot of people.
My name is Logan. I'm 20. I've been going to the fair quite literally as long as I can remember. Best memories have to be definitely the food. The food is probably the best part. It used to be the fried chicken on a stick, but I don't know, it just changed one year. So it's mostly been cheese curds. Everyone loves cheese curds. And then probably the soda pop stand, because they got a whole range of different flavors. But I try at least one or two different things every year. But I think the best one has to be the music. All the music concerts in the day and in the night, they're great.
Every year we go on the Ferris Wheel.
That
it's
is
kind
true.
of a tradition. Yeah.
Yeah. But I liked the carousel.
The carousel?
And rides similar to that.
And like the dragon one where you would go in circles and such. Yeah.
I have been coming with my family to the McLeod County Fair ever since we moved to the area more than 20 years ago. And each year we see something new and different. One of my best memories was probably more than 10 years ago when our second oldest daughter was about 12 years old and she so wanted to go on all the rides, but her other sisters were tired of going on the rides with her, so she convinced my husband, her dad, to go on the ride with her. And the ride she chose was the Scrambler. Now usually when you go on a ride at the fair, everybody thinks the ride is too short and you want it to go on and on. Well, the person running this ride was not sure, was out of the box, because the ride went on forever and ever. And my daughter was having a great fun time. My husband was at first, but after almost 10 minutes of being on the Scrambler, and he's a very tall man, and the Scrambler seats are very short. So I think he felt like his back was breaking after 5 minutes of going round and round, besides his stomach not doing well. And so by the time the ride was fun, and the guy running the ride was laughing a great deal as he watched my husband go around and around and around and around the Scrambler. And by the time he got off, my daughter was thrilled to have the longest fair ride of her life, and my husband was delighted to get off of the ride. And we still talk about that now.
We had automobile races. In fact, I remember talking to a gentleman that built a race car just for the McLeod County racetrack. It was a Model T. It held records all over the state of Minnesota, but it was a four-wheel drive on a dirt track that's very important to get good traction. And that was built right here in Hutchinson. And this gentleman raced it all over Minnesota and Iowa until his son decided to take it out for a spin on a day when Dad wasn't home. He came home, found out about it, and cut it up in pieces. No longer existed, but it was quite a machine back in the 20s.
I went to the Lumberjack show, and the guy carved out a little chair, and they was going to give it away to me and another person, whoever can sound like a chainsaw as long as possible. And I did it with a little boy. It was a competition, and that was long. And of course, the little boy wasn't as long. And then it said applaud for whoever one you think is the best. And the only one that applauded for me is my friend. Everybody applauded for the little boy, but I said he deserved it though. My friend was the only one that had cheered for me. And this is like runner-up present. He gave me this. That's all I had to say.
Well, my name is Dennis Berquist, and I remember the McLeod County Fair when we were at the original site, or the older site. And we showed jerseys, and it was back at a time when Butch Olson and Glenn Mills and Doug Tooman and Steve, we showed together, and we had our jerseys in that circle that was at the dairy barn. And it was great days, great memories, and it was neat to be a part of it. It was back in about 1957, 58 that we were showing jerseys under Marvi jerseys at that time. So thanks for the memory.
And I remember when my father, Dan Brown, used to announce the horse shows for the McLeod County Fair. He was a member of the Little Crow Riders Association. And my late mother, Dorothy Brown, used to ride as well. And I remember all the old names, Kurt Tongan and the chariot races.
Yeah, years ago when McLeod County Fair was being held, one day usually on a day of Saturday, all the stores in all the county towns would close so the workers and owners could go to the McLeod County Fair. And also, the crop buildings used to be full of farmers' crops that they would exhibit to see who had the best alfalfa or the best corn or farm product. They would always come there to exhibit to see who would have the best.
Hi, my name's Ann. My children played in the Phoenix Drumline, and as part of paying rent
to use the fair building for practicing, the parents of the Phoenix Drumline would be assigned cleaning the lavatories during the county fair. So God bless Phoenix Drumline, the McLeod County Fair, and all the parents and volunteers that it takes to make the fair beautiful.
Glenn Kurth, most people know me as Clancy, here at the 150th McLeod County Fair. If you have not been here yet, excellent display here by the Agriculture Association here in McLeod County. It goes back many years in history, and I guess I'd like to share a few stories about the fairgrounds at the 3M area. That was kind of my era of 4-H and whatnot. Had car races on the track, which at one time was a horse racing track. Had tractor pulls where they had guys sitting on benches. They got off the bench and stepped onto this platform that the tractor was pulling. They had all-star wrestling. A friend of mine and I, we chased one wrestler, and all of a sudden he turned around, and then we ran and hijacked it out of here because we didn't know what he was going to do, but they all came in one car and they all left in one car, and yet they competed. So the one major improvement at that fair that I was a part of was the building of the Agribition building, where the show cattle were held, where the show was held. My days of showing, we showed on the street. It was a blacktop area in between all the cattle barns, and that's where we showed our cattle. So times have changed. Farming has changed. Just about everybody in McLeod County at that time had some dairy cattle, and now that's changed drastically from what it once was. So but there's always something for you to see at the county fair, and with the free admission this year, anybody's watching this, you can't go wrong by coming out and see everything that's here to offer at the county fair.
My favorite memories of the fair, I've been here since about 1964, and I think I've attended just about every fair. My favorite thing are the horses. I had horses when I was growing up, and I loved them. My favorite horse's name was Nuggets, and I trained my horse Nuggets. I looked him right in the eyes and I'd say, "Lay down," and he would lay down. And so I guess that's my favorite thing. And I like the vendors. Wood stove, water softeners, appliances, you name it, churches, just about anything you can, administration building. I like the administration.
And the time I won the champion barrel show, I was working at 3M, and my foreign exchange student showed me a pig. And he won grand champion. I wasn't even here. And I'd showed pigs for 20-some years, I guess. And then my family did showing pigs also and stuff like that. And the other time we used to get tickets from businesses, and I built a new shed, a pole shed. So I had a whole box of tickets from a business. Well, I was working at 3M, 3 to 11 shift, so I could not attend. So I sent my 16-year-old son and my 80-year-old uncle with the box of tickets to the fair. I was getting off work, and they said, "Well, you're lucky. I won big money at the county fair." And I got home, and everything was just normal, and this is what's going on here. Nobody'd even tell me at home that I'd won.
I went to the fair for many years with my family and friends, and I always remember the good times I used to have here, because there's always so many memories that came with it, of the food and the rides and all the fun things we used to do. And best of all was the tractor pulls and things like that I used to go to. And I remember my dad used to tell me my grandpa used to bring horses here. Way back in the day, they had horse races at the other site when they used to have it by the 3M. And he used to bring the horses to that. And I remember all those things of the good times that McLeod County Fair has brought, you know, to other people and to myself. And I think it's a good thing, and I hope it keeps on. And I hope to share this memory with you, and hope this video gets to other people that they can experience what fun times you can have at McLeod County Fair.
Just so many memories from McLeod County Fair over the years. And here 4 years ago, I was elected as vice president, or president-elect, we call it. So I'm currently in my last days of my presidency. And it's a very, very humbling experience to watch all the volunteers and all the things that happen. For years, when I kept my nose in the horse barn and I thought, oh man, I'm working, we got to keep all this straight. And when I see what we're doing down there, it's just a chip of the iceberg. We've got people that never get recognition that do so much at the fair, whether it's parking or painting lines on the parking lot, collecting tickets at the stands, working the different various booths, beer gardens, HCVN for coming in and doing these shows. All volunteers. And our goal as a fair board is that when you people cross the gate, that you come in expecting something. You expect to be entertained. And our goal, our hope and prayer is when you leave this evening, you can look at the person sitting alongside you and smile and say, wow, we had a good time. So once again, I just want to thank all of the volunteers, all of the contributors, and most of all of you that are attendees. Once again, my name is Keith Tongan. I'm current vice president, and we're looking very, very forward to seeing you again.
Thanks so much for watching this retrospective piece on the 150th anniversary of the McLeod County Fair.